Everybody, Uneducated Economist here. So I titled this video, well, originally I titled it How We Got Here and What to Do About It. But before I started the live stream, I got to thinking that wasn't enough of a fear-mongering title that's going to be clickbaity enough. So I changed it to How or the Economy Failed and What to Do About It. Anyway, really, this is how we got here and what to do about it, because I still have a lot of people who say, man, I've been listening to you for a while. In fact, this was in the comment section just earlier. And they said, I've been listening to you for a while, and I still am asking or still looking for the question of how do I use this information to get rich? Or what am I supposed to do with this information? And I still I'm almost frustrated with the question, only because, like, how is it that you're supposed to answer that question when you don't know who it is that asked? Because nobody is going to do the same thing. Okay, so I'm just going to assume that you're probably 16 to 18 years old, right? I'm just going to assume that. Because if I assume that you're 16 to 18 years old, then I have a pretty easy thing to offer you, and that's to say, take advantage of compounding interest, right? In fact, if you're in your 20s at all, even 30s, really, right? But that's not the same thing that if you're going to be 80 years old and what it is that you're going to do to try and hold on to your wealth, or even better yet, if you're 60 years old trying to figure out what it is that you're going to do with the rest of your life, considering you didn't save a single dime and you're barely making it paycheck to paycheck from a job that you're about ready to get laid off from or fired or just retire from because you're just no longer a fit. So what is it you're going to do? Right? You got to figure that out for yourself. And the best way to figure that out is to understand what is happening right now, to understand why it is that we are where we are because of the way that things had occurred from the past. If you want to blame it on politics, that's easy enough, right? You can just plenty of blame to go around. I mean, hell, people write books and make an entire living off of blaming politics and giving it reason to why we are in the condition we are in. And I'm not going to try and deny that out of people. There is plenty of blame to go around. But to understand what it is that you need to do with your life, and you want to blame it on politics, well, then that means you need to blame a particular person, or a vote, or a group of voters, right? Or whatever it is that is occurring out there that says, my life sucks because of this external out here. And generally, it's going to be a political thing, if that's the way you're looking at it. So instead of figuring out what it is you need to do for yourself, you're going to figure out how it is that you can debate other people to change their thoughts so that they better align with yours and your outcomes. Does it sound possible? I mean, just like, does that seem right? Like, I'm going to change this person's ideas. In fact, not just this person, but a whole group of people. So I got to work on them one at a time. So I'm going to get this one first and then move on to the next one, change their political view so that it better aligns with mine, so that the outcome of my life will be better suited. Like, again, it's just like, I don't know if that's going to be possible. So if you want to blame politics, that's kind of the road you're going to be going down, right? Now, if you want to take it for the understanding that there is economic forces out there that are at play, and that these underlying economic forces have been at play for hundreds of years, thousands of years, really, if you think about the trade of commodities and services go all the way back to caveman, you can really think about what it is that is ingrained into us as humans and what it is that we do as humans and the natural consequences of money that flows through the system and our instinctual behaviors that happen from it. You can blame greed, but greed is a natural thing that occurs within humans. You can't stop it. To say, hey, we need to stop the greed is to change that other person's mind. It ain't gonna happen, right? You got to understand that greed exists in the system and it's going to take place. That at moments when people are in it, they're going to take as much as they can. They're going to take more than they should. And you're going to have to know that that's the case and that's what's happening. People say, it ain't fair. You're right. This is not fair. There's nothing here that is fair. You're absolutely right. It's not fair. And now we can again change this person's mind to say, hey, don't do it, so that it better aligns with my expectations and my outcomes, or we can just understand that we live in a life that isn't fair. And so when we think about a life that isn't fair, then sometimes we have to be the greedy one in order to acquire what it is that we need in this world that's full of abundance, because they have just as much access to it as you do. And you have just as much as they have. And how it is that you get it into your life is up to you. But the average person out there has a tendency to not want to blame themselves, but blame the external and blame politicals and blame their family and blame their society and blame all this other stuff, but never taken into consideration that there's people out there who are doing exactly what it is that they want to do for themselves. And yet they look out there and they blame other people for them not being in a condition in which that they truly want to be in. When we think back to what it is that we had done to create a system that is now in the existence that it is, we can't change it. It's here. This is the way it is. We can wish, hope, dream, pray, want it some other way, but it's not going to go any other way. It's going to be this way because this is the way it is. And we have to accept that. Why is it this way? Why is it that we have a fiat currency system, central banking systems, debt-based currencies, forever perpetual printing, all the stuff that people are scared about and worrisome, and that takes their idea of what it is that they come into the future and it ruins their possibilities, right? Why is it that we live in this kind of society? Now you have to think back to what it is that we had prior to what it is that exists today, prior to when there was barter, prior to when there was, even a concept of money. How did it develop into the system that we have today? Is to understand that there is economic forces that are at play. To know that there is goods and services that need to be exchanged for other goods and services, and it's not an easy exchange without some sort of facilitator. And that facilitator has always been money. And now that money has taken on the form of a lot of characters, right? Sometimes gold and silver, it's been opium, right? It's been cryptocurrencies, it's been seashells, it's been sticks, right? It's been land, it's been people, it's been cattle, it's been everything. Anything and everything has been used as a form of money and currency. But to understand the difference between money and currency is a big deal when it comes to understanding the difference in what it is that we have today. It's currency, it's not money. Currency is something that flows goods and services to other goods and services, and to understand that's what it's meant to do, and it's not meant to hold value. Holding value is something that actually has something of real wealth to it. Yeah. Cattle, land. Yeah. The limitation of items that make it a requirement to use can also be used as money, even though it doesn't have any real intrinsic value to it, such as the seashells or tally sticks. But to have everybody in agreement that that is the money, and that is the limitation of what it is that can be considered wealth out there, or the exchange thereof wealth. So when we think about how it is that this currency was created, see, people have to think back to how it is that the barter system wasn't enough, and that gold and silver served an incredibly valuable service of providing this currency to change the goods and services into other goods and services. We recognize that that's what it is. That's what it does. And it was so perfect It had value within itself, and people recognized it and they accepted it. And all of a sudden, people's goods and services could be traded for other goods and services, and it was like the perfect exchange. The only problem that people don't seem to recognize when it comes to gold and silver, as they tote it as being the best currency and stable and awesome for everybody, is that the most industrious people out there will end up hoarding all the gold and silver for themselves. And there won't be any left out there to exchange for goods and services. And depressionary slowdowns, business cycles, whatever you want to call it, will begin to take place as the concentration of wealth goes into the hands of a few, because that's how the human greed nature works. There's no way you can stop that. It's just the way it is. So as you understand that the gold and silver standard that could have existed within this nation and very well could have had the people who were greedy and hoarding all of it for themselves could have redistributed out there without having the consequence of a slowdown depressionary effect. That's not what happens. What ends up happening is that you have that concentration in the business cycle and you have a redistribution of that wealth. To understand that the pain that the people experience from this cycle, the soup kitchens, the massive unemployment, the horribleness that came from these events, had the people demanding that the government do something about it. What are they going to do? What were they to do? If you have a concentration of wealth outside of communistic, socialistic, forcing the people to behave and do things in ways that would not be anything remotely close to what would be considered a free republic, constitutional free republic, right? Unless that was to take place, you're going to have a concentration of it. So what was the government going to do? The people demanded you should do something about it. Government says we really can't do anything about it unless we, well, I mean, there is some things we can do about it, but, did you guys like this thing? It's called the Constitution of the United States. I mean, if you want me to do something about it, like if you want the government to do something about it, we really have to do something about this thing first, because this is kind of in the way. Okay. However, the people really wanted it, and, the bankers out there and the powers that be, they're pretty persuasive in the way that they communicate this, and they were able to convince not only the administrations and the Congress and the Senate and the people out there and everybody else that it was a really good idea. I guess I shouldn't say everybody. Convinced enough people that it was a good idea. And the central banking system was born. An elastic money supply came into an existence. And now, it's not like it's the first fiat currency to come into an existence, but it was the first to be in a global trade of the nature that the United States was about ready to do. See, a lot of times when we look at like this fiat currency, they say, like people will say something of the effect that, they just want to steal all your wealth with it or something of that nature. And that's really not what it was sold as. What it was sold as was something much different. It was sold as an elastic money supply to deal with the fact that there was a concentration of wealth that was happening during the hot economy. See, isn't that weird? So you got a hot economy and there's all kinds of people who are doing business, and the people who are doing business, the most industrious of those people, start hoarding onto the money. So the hot economy itself, right, the active economy itself, is what was driving the concentration of wealth. And the Federal Reserve and the bankers and the powers that be, they recognize it. They say, hey, man, when the economy is ramping up and all these people are doing business and they're doing their products and they're making and manufacturing and doing all this stuff, and all this economic activity starts to concentrate the wealth, which denies the people the ability to actually do transactions because, well, the gold and silver is limited. And if it's concentrated into hands of just a few, then that limitation of gold and silver going to the people out there to do commerce is depleted. and the slowdown begins to take place. And this is where the cycle comes in. And so they said, if we had a fiat currency and we injected money during these times of hot, active economy, we could inject that money during these good times and they could continue to do business and continue to trade their goods and services and continue on doing everything that it is that they would typically be doing if it wasn't for the fact that the gold and silver was depleted away, getting concentrated into the hands of a few. But we can keep the money flowing and keep the business activity moving. This is the elastic money supply. And as the economy slows down, they would pull the money back out. And this is how the Federal Reserve was sold to the people, right? As this elastic money supply to deal with the business cycles, to smooth them out, right? Well, of course, I'm sure it probably had a bunch of people who argued against it, but it passed, and that's exactly what ended up happening, is that they started injecting this money into the system. Well, as the money was injected into the system, they found that the more that currency was injected into the system, the more commerce and the more transactions could take place because, well, gold is limited. Gold and silver could only perform so many transactions, as the limitation of gold limited the amount of transactions. But the limitation of fiat currency was unlimited. And debt issuance was essentially unlimited. And the amount of transactions and economic activity could also be unlimited to the potential of whatever it is that the people had to their imaginations and desires. And so really, when the fiat currency came into existence, it had the people saying, yeah, let's use this thing because now we can do all the transactions we could ever possibly imagine without the limitation of gold and silver. They didn't know that at the time. Right? They just looked at the transactions of the dollar saying, yeah, since this thing is acceptable, we can just do business. And since we want to do business, we'll accept the dollar. Meanwhile, in the background, they didn't realize that there wasn't enough dollars out there to back all the gold. But in the reality of the situation, what they were truly demanding was the ability to do transactions. That's what they really wanted. And since they were willing to accept dollars because dollars were set to a specific amount weight of gold, then a set amount of dollars could get a set amount of gold. Gold and dollars were essentially the same thing. They shared a symbiotic relationship. So this is how it transitioned from a gold standard into the fiat currency that now exists, is simply from the fact that people were really wanting to do transactions. That's it. Okay. Now, I'm sure a lot of other people recognized that they could take advantage of the situation and put their efforts into a way and an ability that would have ever increasing amounts of money flowing towards them that then separated themselves from the poor in a very significant fashion. And I'm not saying that they didn't understand and know that that would take place ahead of time. All I guess I'm saying is that the people themselves across the globe were demanding the ability to do transactions, and they were willing to accept the dollars because the dollars were considered as good as gold. The moment that they couldn't do that anymore, and they knew that the dollars were no longer accepted, I'm sorry, we're not, good Lord, man, I need to slow down here. Once the people realized that they were no longer able to exchange their dollars for gold or a fixed amount of gold, they lost it for it. They were like, man, we don't want to use the dollar anymore. Piss on the dollar. Problem was, there was nothing else to use. Right? There was nothing else for them to do transactions with except for the dollar. They had no other choice because the sheer amount of transactions that had been done in dollars, believing that they were exchangeable for gold, then had everybody convinced and using the dollar in order to do their transactions, and they really had no other choice but to accept it. At that point, the entire globe had moved into a fiat currency and was now stuck at the idea of that a central banking system now controls the entire globe and the world and how the transactions are being done. See, this is really how the condition of the economy went down. They want to blame it on politics. It was just like, well, how far back do you want to go? Like, how far back into that system? And I wrap this up quick. I mean, really, you can dive this much deeper, but you can go and find all kinds of political environment that took place within this, but really it was the underlying economic force of Gresham's law that was happening. The bad money was chasing out the good. And this is something that was recognized hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of years ago, right? It was like, actually, it was how many years ago? It wasn't, yeah, getting pretty close to 1,000, I guess. It's moving on 700 years or so, right? That Gresham's law had found that coin clipping of silver coins had then moved those clipped coins into circulation where the unclipped coins would be hoarded away. This was first recognized. Debased currency coins would also move into circulation where the undebased currency would then move out. So if you can imagine that if you had a silver coin and you clipped the edges of that, kept a little bit of the silver for yourself, and then spent that coin into circulation, those coins would now carry less of a value than the ones that were completely whole, right? The good coins, the ones that were whole, would be hoarded away, and the bad coins, the ones that were clipped, would be in circulation. And now this was recognized, like I said, hundreds of years ago. They also recognized it again when they would debase the currency. They would add lesser metals, base metals to silver coins in order to try and create more currency to do the transactions with. And by adding this base metal to it, the people recognize that that's a lesser value coin. Those coins would move into circulation, and the more valuable non-debased coins without the base metals put into it, and the solid silver coins or copper coins would be hoarded away. And this is something that was recognized, again, a very long time ago. So there's no reason to doubt that when there was two currencies in play, gold and dollars, when people looked at these two as a symbiotic relationship, a fixed amount of dollars got to a certain amount of gold, people accept the dollars as if they were gold. Right? Now, once they realized that, or even before they even realized that it was a situation in which that there was more dollars than gold, the people who had those dollars were using them and hoarding the gold away, leaving only the dollars out there in circulation. You're recognizing it again even today. Copper pennies are being hoarded away by people who recognize that a pre-81 penny is 95% copper, and that a penny after the date of 1981, well, really halfway through 82 or so, some of the 82s are copper, but 82 and after are all zinc. Well, the copper ones are starting to be hoarded away. And I find plenty of people out there, not only on YouTube, but out there all over the internet, talking about ways of sorting out the copper pennies from the zinc ones and hoarding those copper pennies for themselves. Right? Because they recognize that the copper value of those pennies is far exceeding the face value. Now, you can't melt them yet, but they're given time, and you might be able to. So we're in this fiat currency. There is no backing out at this point. And people who think that, okay, well, we can go back to a gold standard, you can't. You can't go back to a gold standard. If you went back to a gold standard, you would suffer the consequences of having to deal with an export that is so diminished in accordance to our standard of living. You think about it, like, what is it that you are producing that is going to maintain your standard of living in this nation as a whole? What is it that we're producing? Nothing. We don't produce enough. We produce debt. We borrow money and we borrow money and we buy stuff from the world. That's how we operate. That's how come we have such the high standard of living that we do. So it's going to be very difficult to go back to a gold standard because all the gold that we have would immediately be depleted in order to try and maintain the standard of living. It would all be gone and we would suffer the consequences of being in misery and poverty. It would happen so fast it would make your head spin. So going back to a gold standard isn't possible, not at the standard of living that we live. So it's best to understand that we have a fiat currency system that is going to be ever increasingly more expansionary because any other direction that it goes will mean pain and misery and suffering and consequence for most people out there. So we might experience moments in which that the central banking system might attempt a monetary tightening policy like we are experiencing now, but it will be far more of the other direction that will be the bigger event that comes from these central banks. So knowing that we're going to have a situation in which that the new money is going to pour into the system and that new money is going to separate the rich from the poor, it is best to understand that we have to deal with this individually from the position that we have taken and what it is that we have going on in our life, and it is so uniquely different from everybody else. It is literally case by case, individual, personal economy that you cannot ask anybody else, what is it that I'm supposed to do? That's literally like saying, what am I supposed to do with my entire life? Tell me, what am I supposed to do with my life? All right. And if you don't know what it is that you're supposed to do with your life, then you are going to suffer the consequences of listening to other people guide you into whatever mistakes that you fall into because you just didn't do it yourself and figure it out for yourself. Again, I think about it, 18 years old. If I was to go back and to tell myself, it was just like, people are looking for advice. They want to know what to do. I was just like, what would you do if you were 18 years old? Knowing what I know right now, if I was 18 years old, this is what I would tell myself. I would tell myself, do not get into the drugs and alcohol. Do not smoke cigarettes. Do not go and chase a bunch of bullshit. Focus in on the job that you have because you have a good job. Pay attention to saving and putting money away into a compounding interest account. Be very disciplined to that. Start early. At 18, I was in high school with a job. All right, with a decent job. I would be telling myself that now. Not to do what I was doing, which was spending all that money on beer and weed, but to do right by that money, to be smart with that money, to put it towards an interest-bearing account, right? A compounding interest account, and to be very disciplined with that. Right? That's what I'd be telling my 18-year-old self. I think if somebody was to do that from the time that they were 18, the natural outcome from an 18-year-old kid who has taken on that sort of understanding of what it is that they are doing, not only with their time and money, right? But that would just naturally put them in better position, not only for their job and their careers and everything else. They will be very disciplined and very career oriented. They will be smart with their money. Everything will just be a naturally occurring, good thing for them. They won't even have to think about it because they were so disciplined in what it was that they were doing at 18 years old. They will just naturally be making the right decisions as they move forward. They won't even have to think about it. Right? But if you screwed that up and you got into your 30s, say you're in your 20s even, you're getting into your 20s, your late 20s, late 20s, and you've been just screwing it up the whole time. You didn't go to school. You didn't really, save any of your money. You've been drinking and partying and surfing and just, doing other things and not really paying attention to what you got going on. That ain't a big deal. At 25 years old, even into your late 20s, that's really not that big of a deal. right? I mean, that's like, okay, you screwed up. Everybody kind of screws up a little bit, but if you really, snap out of that and you start paying attention to what it is that you're doing, that's really not that bad. Right? I mean, you still got a good chance of doing just about the same thing that the 18-year-old could do. Start that compounding interest, maybe be a little bit more disciplined to it, try to put a little bit more money into it, and continue on, and you'll probably end up being all right through that. Now, you get into your 30s and you've been screwing up, now you're going to have to do something very different, right? Because you're not going to be able to take advantage of the compounding interest thing anymore. You can a little bit, but you're going to have to be incredibly disciplined. No expenses into anything except for the absolute necessities of life, and every little dime would have to go into those accounts. And that's not going to be much fun for the next 30 years, because that's essentially what you're going to have to do if you didn't get an early start. See, if you started at 18, you could just put the 50, 100, as you get more money in, maybe put $200 a month to that account, and then not have to think about anything else. You can go fishing on the weekends. You can go and hang out and play football and watch the game and do whatever you want, right? You just stick to your job. You got a good job that pays, and you don't screw it off and dump your money into stupid things. Well, then you have a chance, right? You have a chance of getting that accounts that are worth a lot of money, and you can do it in a time that by the time it grows to a significant amount, you will still have a decent life ahead of you, still a decent amount of time. But at 30 years old, that's going to be hard, right? That's going to be really hard to get that same benefit of being able to take advantage of not only having the money, but then having the time to enjoy the money as well. See, at 30 years old, you get started. By the time you get the money, you'll be old. You won't care. You'll be like, what can I do with this anyway? But I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying it won't get to enjoy it as much as if you had started when you were 18. So at 30, you're going to have to do something a little bit different. Right? And so I'm guessing that probably the best thing to do at 30 is to figure out a business, right? Figure out how to start business, or team up with business, or figure out a way to start collecting or building on cash flowing assets of some sort. And that's where I think business is really probably the best opportunity for most people in the 30s, because generally by the time you're in your 30s, you're starting to gain a little bit of skills. Like, you're fairly good at whatever it is that you've been doing, unless you've just been screwing off really hardcore. You probably have some sort of talent, some sort of ability, and it's probably not too bad at what you can do. And if you just kind of hone that skill and get good at it, you could probably create a business out of that skill or that ability. Right? And so if you're in your 30s, you really do have a really good chance, right? I mean, people, like, they don't really expect that much out of you, especially if you're in your early 30s. They don't really expect anything out of you out of your 20s. So if you screwed it all up and then you're starting a business at 30, people are like, yeah, man, he screwed his 20s up, but he's 30 now and he's getting his, stuff together. And so, that's pretty well accepted. And that if you're in your 30s and you had screwed up your 20s, that nobody really, people are forgiving. They're like, yeah, that's cool. He's getting his stuff together and now he's got this business going, right? And so people are actually, they're impressed by that. They like that kind of story. And so really, if you're in your 30s and you haven't done anything yet, you still got a really good chance. I mean, a really, really good chance. You got ambition, you're young, you got, energy, you're starting to get talent and wisdom. So it's like, your 30s are really like a really good opportunity. It's just like, unlike, you don't get that when you're younger. And by the time you start getting older, like the energy, the ambition, the stuff like that, it really starts to fade away. So, like your 30s, that's a unique year, a unique decade for people in life. Like they bust it out, they bust a move in their 30s, right? And so at 30 years old, you got it good, you got it good, but you got to think about the business aspect of it, or at least cash flowing assets, like maybe getting into rental properties or something and figuring out how to do that. But of course, you got to figure out, if you don't have any job or money or income, you're going to have to figure that part out. And that's why I think business is really it, right? Trying to figure out how to get into business. All right. So moving out of 30s and you start getting into your 40s, right? And you haven't done anything. You're broke. You're living paycheck to paycheck, and you don't have anything going on. You don't really have any family business or inheritance coming. You haven't been saving any money, and you just have like just regular average everyday day job. What are you gonna do? This is getting hard, right? This is not an easy position to be in. 40 years old, no real prospects of anything, no real idea of what it is you're going to do, no savings, and no expectations of any of that. Okay, so, wow. All right. Well, I'm going to guess that you probably have something going on in your life that is holding you back. Okay? Now, was it drugs, alcohol, divorce, relationship issues, something, family, whatever, right? At 40 years old, if you're asking yourself that question, what am I supposed to do now? Then you probably should take a real honest look at yourself, right? And say, okay, man, what is my real issues that I got going on? Is it the alcohol? Is it my attitude? Is it my belief systems? Is it, what is it? What's holding me back here from being able to live in the life of abundance that I know exists out there? It's all around, right? There's nothing but abundance and I can't seem to tap into it. And I'm 40 years old. Why? Right? That's it. Dig down deep, figure that out because down in there it's something like that, right? Has to do with some childhood trauma impact that's holding you down. It has to do with alcohol. It has to do with, maybe a relationship that you had that you just can't let go of. There's something in there that's holding you down because you know it. Right? And you have to figure that part out because that's the thing, man. Like that's what's now keeping you from or prevented you from actually that's why you are now asking this question. That's it right there. Okay, that's why you're asking the question to begin with. So figure that part out because at 40 years old you still have the chance to do business, you still have a chance to collect in, do like the rental properties, become a landlord or whatever. There's still all kinds of massive opportunities, but now it's going to take an incredible amount of dedication to it, right? Not only to figuring out what it was that prevented you from excelling to the point that you're now 40 years old and being held back for whatever, it is potential that you should have been exceeding to. Once you have figured that part out, you got a hell of a lot of work to do, right? But you can, like, this is America, right? This is where the land of opportunity and possibilities, right? So even if you have been screwed up your entire life and you're 40 years old trying to figure it all out, start there, right? Figure out what it is that was going on in your head that had you held back to this level because you got to let that stuff go, whatever it was, so that you can exceed, right? And you can, exceed past that and excel and do all the stuff that you need to do. But you can't do it holding on to a bunch of crap from the past. It's not gonna work. So once you kind of figure that out, you got to get that business started and work it hard, right? You're not gonna have the time to collect up on it, and you're probably not going to be driving Corvettes and all the other stuff, but you can still be quite successful, and you never know. You could be, build $1 million business inside of a very short time and be able to sell that thing off and retire with a grand income. And that's just like that's a real possibility for anybody out there. I don't care what age group you're in, right? But that's ultimately what you're going to end up having to do is that you're going to have to figure out what it was that held you back to that point and then let that stuff go and then dedicate yourself to a business of some sort, or at least the cash flowing asset portion of things like, rental properties or, figuring it out. I don't know what it is that you can team up with other people to do things, but that's ultimately what you're going to end up having to do at 40 years old. When you get into 50, if you haven't done that, if you're not, into business, if you're still living paycheck to paycheck and you have no retirement and you have no idea, you still have the business idea, but it's a whole lot less because your ambition, your energy, your time that you can put into it it's a whole lot less. And each individual person is different, and how much energy that they can put towards something. You can still do it. I know a guy who started a business at 50 years old and sold it at 65, 15 years later. And I thought, man, he started a business at 55 and worked it for 15 years and then sold it. Right? That's the way you do it right there. So this guy, he had already done all kinds of businesses in his life. And so for him, it was no big deal to start up a business at 50 and continue on doing what he would normally do. So it's not impossible, but at 50, if you're not in that mindset, if you don't understand business, if you're not like somebody who has a plan or something like that, you're gonna have to, that's all you can think about, right? Never once ever buying anything that isn't trying to sustain your life. Anything else gets postponed. You do not buy anything, because everything is going to have to be dedicated into your existence going into the future, because you really don't have a whole lot of options, right? So every single dollar is going to count, and I don't care how much money you're making at the time. I don't care if you're making $50,000 a month. You figured that out. You're at 50 years old. If you had nothing at 50 and you figured it out and you can make 50 grand in your month, you pretend like you still make a month, right? And you stick to that plan, because you can, the ability to make that money has always been there, right? It has always been there, but it was the mindset that got you into the failure that you were in. And knowing that you can be back in there at any given time will keep you motivated going forward. You pretend like you didn't make any money at all. You keep driving forward, right? And that is if you're at 50 years old. When you get into 60, you're going to be screwed, right? Because really, even starting a business is going to be very difficult. You don't have much time to build up the business. Unless you can figure out how to make money right away, most businesses take 5 years or so before they ever really start being profitable. So it's going to be very hard at 60 years old to try and say, I have nothing. I have a day job. I have no retirement. I have, no family, and I have no way of figuring out what it is that I'm supposed to do. That is such a tough position to be in. Like, I can't imagine like being in a position of 60 years old with no retirement, no like passive income of any kind, like having like a dividend paying stock portfolio, or having some sort of like partnership in a business or something out there that's outside of your day job, having nothing out there, and then on top of it, no retirement portfolio at all. What in the world could you do? I mean, outside of just sheer luck, what in the world, man? Like, I would be so scared to death to be in that sort of position. Like, I'm worried now at 48, right? And I feel like I got kind of a lot of things going on, and I'm trying and I'm pushing and I'm doing all kinds of things, and I don't feel like it's enough. I can't imagine being 60 years old with nothing and no real idea of how it is that I can do business, drinking every single day. You know, I, at that point, it would be like, man, I, I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna do. Like, at that point, I don't know, because like your chances of being able to have like any kind of real significant retirement, you just don't have any time. Like, what are you gonna like? Even if you were to save every single paycheck, you wouldn't. How do you live? Like, all your money's going to paying rent and bills and buying a few six packs a week, and that's it. Like, it's all gone. I don't know, man. There's like, take a chance, try to start the business, try to figure it out, man. I don't know, maybe take a chance and buy lottery tickets, take a chance and buy into something like really crazy, maybe buy some Bitcoin and hope that it goes to $400 million an ounce or something. I have no idea what you're gonna do, because that's a really, really tough position to be in. Uh, you wonder why you see so many old men out there on homeless out there on the street. You know, like, there's young men out there too. you know, this is mostly men. There's women out there too, but it's like men. Men are like left worthless society to society. It's like they're like there's almost no use for them. It seems like it's sad to see it. I wonder why is this that? Why is it this way? You know, is it because like they just have no ambition? Is it the drugs? Is it the mental health? I mean, there's so much that can go on inside somebody's head that says, "Hey, man, I didn't have it in me to do it." And I'm thinking it wasn't even really that hard. It was just a matter of showing up every day. You know, it was like nothing is that hard. You think about it. Like, I mean, you know what's hard? Have you ever seen those, like, you know, guys doing like oil drill rig work or, you know, working on like, you know, power lines or something like that? That stuff looks hard, right? That stuff looks hard. Everything in the world is easy. You know what's hard is doing it. Right? And just actually having the motivation to get up and say, okay, man, I'm going to do it today. I'm going to make it happen today. That's the hardest part. You know, I think about it, people are like, dude, you're a really good salesman. And I'm like, you know, you know what I do? I relay information. That's it. That's what I do. I'm a relayer of information. That's all I do. People tell me one thing, and I turn around and I tell somebody else something, and then I tell those people one thing, and then these other people say something to me, and then I go and tell those people, and this is how it works. And I don't really like I don't even have to really leave my desk. And outside of taking notes, I'm just a communicator of information. That's it. Like I just relay information. And so I think like how hard is that? It's not. It's not hard. It's hard to like you know remember. There's complications. There's all kinds of stuff. But physically, that's not very hard. You know, it's not very hard to do. So when I think about it, it's just like things aren't hard. You just have to do it. You have to get out there and make it happen. And generally, when you're making things happen, you have to build it. You have to build it up over time. And that's building up over time doesn't leave you a whole lot of room if you're old. If you're in your 60s, especially if you're 70 and 80 and like that, that's I don't know, man, you're on your own. Like at that point, I don't know what it is that can happen, right? And if, in fact, you're probably already in such a deteriorated condition or elevated condition or didn't even make it. It's like at that point, you know, there is no real like anything you can do. You know, it's just like that's it. You're it. That's you know that's the life that you're gonna end up living. And so again, I think back to like you know the question, what is it that I'm supposed to do? You know, like when people say, "Man, what am I supposed to do about this with this information?" Well, what position are you in? Right? Ask yourself that. What position am I in? Am I the 18-year-old kid who's trying to figure out how it is that I can build up a compounding interest portfolio so I can really just like be dedicated to that and not have to really be dedicated and disciplined to that and then really just kind of be a family man and go fishing on the weekends and you know, camping twice a year and do all that other stuff and not really think about what it is that I got going on and not just keep throwing the money into that thing, knowing that it's going to, you know, build up to something that's going to be awesome in my life, right? That 18-year-old kid has an option unlike anybody else. So, yeah, no, he's doing something way different, right? I think about it to me personally, right? I'm 48 years old. Like, just 8 years ago, I had nothing. Right? I had absolutely nothing. I had broken down cars. I was like, you know, $20,000 in debt, right? Drinking, you know, alcoholic, you know, all the stuff, like all the stuff that you can imagine. At 40 years old, I was that. Like, you know, I mean, it could have been worse. Sure, not much, but it could have been, you know, I mean, it could have been worse. And getting out of that and getting to the position that I am in now, it has been a very tough, long, hard, dedicated road to try and get here. Every single day, motivated to one outcome, right? Making sure that this is happening, right? And that I'm not going the other way, but that I'm in a direction of positive growth, right? And 8 years of dedication towards that has paid off well, but it's every single day. right? And I can't back out. Like I back out just a couple of days, and I like all of a sudden I start getting antsy and feeling weird about it, going, man, the whole thing's gonna crumble, right? I've created my own mental issues on account of how dedicated I am to trying to be successful at getting all this done, because there was a moment there that I didn't think I was gonna get it. In fact, I thought it was gonna be very much the opposite road. Um, I like how people say, man, I don't see you being all rich and successful. It was just like, do you realize how far I have come? Right? It was just like, you're right. I am not rich. I don't have millions of dollars. I don't have I don't have all that stuff. I don't drive fancy cars and I don't take fancy vacations and I don't do any of that stuff. But considering where I was at to where I am today, holy crap, man, I feel like I'm on a rocket ship, you know? And knowing that it was all just based off of the idea that it was just like, man, you cannot continue to live the life that you were living. You cannot continue to drink the alcohol. You cannot continue to think the way you were thinking. You cannot do the things that you were doing before. You have to change everything about what it is that you have going on. And being dedicated to that has proved itself to be absolutely incredible for my family, for what I feel that I have going on in my future, everything. Like my entire life changed, right? At 40 years old, I committed to that. Right? I I don't I don't know what to say other than like, I mean, I am so enjoying this experience. I don't need fancy stuff. I don't need fancy cars. I don't need any of that stuff. Like I already like had already just like come to accept the fact that I wasn't going to have anything like that in my life anyway. So it was no big deal to like not even want it now, right? The idea of being able to go out and get it is just as good as having it. I tell you guys, it is just as good as having it. I don't need it anymore because I know I can go get it anytime I want. It's the same. It's like you only want it when you can't have it. The moment you can have it, you don't want it anymore. It's the most amazing feeling in the entire world, right? And so as the more that the things that I want in life, I just don't want them anymore, I find that I'm enjoying just doing the process, just going for it, right? It's not about the money, it's about the traveling and the adventure and the experience that I'm getting from doing all this other stuff is so much more rewarding than anything that I got monetarily or especially materially. Like I don't material possessions outside of having a really good, nice place for my family to be. I don't care about material possessions. I really don't. Like there's nothing out there that I want at all. Food, like a good, you guys know it. It's a ribeye. It's a view. It's music. Simple stuff, right? Stuff that I don't need money. I don't need a lot of money to have, right? Because I don't want anything. Like I already have everything I could want. I mean, I guess traveling. There's be some more traveling that I could do. I mean, there is stuff that would be out there, but really, it's not that big of a deal. All right, man. I have really gone off. How long have I been babbling for, man? Holy crap, I can't even read this. What is it? Almost an hour? Did I really talk for an entire hour? Oh my God. You guys are awesome. 300 people watching. We got Cody. Hey, right on. Signed up for the membership. We're going to do a live stream tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. I don't know if you can be there. I know you're on the other side of the planet there. But we are going to do a members only live stream. We're going to talk about the different interlinking transaction communication styles that the Federal Reserve is talking about. It sounds a lot like maybe a cryptocurrency style network kind of thing, but they don't necessarily really talk about that. But I think it's a good speech that we should break down. Again, we're going to do that tomorrow, 8 o'clock in the morning, West Coast time. Membership only video, but it's only $1 to become a member of the channel. So if you want to join in on that membership, on that live stream tomorrow, be sure and follow the link down in the description and become a member of the channel. Simon, fully agree that everyone should pay off their debts first. You can't run with one arm tied behind your back, but Sports subscriptions are a must. That's funny. Um, yeah, and that's just the thing. Like, for me, like I looked at, like, when I looked at my own personal self, this is the only advice I can really give is the one that I see for myself. All right, because everybody's going to be in a different position, and I don't know what position you're in. I don't know what it is that you understand for talents and business and what it is that you can do. Because what you can do with your life is up to you, and it's so broad, right? And there's so many opportunities. It's just like, how the hell do you get it from some dude on YouTube who's going to tell you how to do it? I was looking at myself. I just looked at myself and said, man, I can blame I blame politics. I was into politics, guys. You wouldn't even believe like how deep I was, right? And it's funny because people tell me it was just like, you got to follow politics to understand economics, and I'm thinking you will never understand economics if you follow politics. Believe me, I followed politics for a very long time, right? And I had so much blame. I had so much blame out there. I blamed everything out there on the external. Everything was all like, it was somebody else's fault. It was whatever. It was always somebody else's issue. And it was never me. It was never ever anything that I had going on. I was doing everything I could. I worked. I showed up every single day for work. I didn't care how sick I was. I didn't care. Like, it didn't matter what the road conditions were like. I showed up every single day to work, no matter what. And I thought that's the only thing I'm supposed to do. I literally thought that, like, in my mind, I didn't say it out loud, but in my mind, if I showed up every single day for work and I didn't steal or hurt anybody, then that's all I needed to do in life, and that's all I was supposed to do. And if I did that, then everything was supposed to be excellent. Like, and I could do whatever I wanted. Because essentially that's what my old man did, right? My dad was in the military. He went to work every single day, but we were in the military and we had, like, health care and all the other stuff, housing and all these things that were taken care of. So I just assumed, growing up, that that's just kind of the way it was, and that if I showed up every single day, then that's all I needed to do. That's so wrong. That is so, like, it might work for some people, and it might work for somebody who's incredibly disciplined and, got their mental health together and all that other stuff. But I didn't. I was drinking and partying and doing all kinds of stuff. So I wasn't doing it right by any means. And so understanding that at 40 years old, that the entire time that I've been doing this, that there was like, man, this isn't working. Right. And that I need to change the way that I'm doing things. The number one thing I had to give up was alcohol. And giving up alcohol was probably the biggest thing. Like, once you give up alcohol, you can't help it but to know that the next step is there, right? Like, you can go stagnant and say, I don't want to go to the next step, right? And I'm not talking about the 12-step program and all that other stuff. I'm talking about, you've given up alcohol. Now what am I supposed to do with my life, right? Because a lot of people give up alcohol and they think, okay, that's it. I won, right? I given up alcohol, and now the world is just magically, it becomes this one beautiful place where everything is hunky dory and you never have anything that's wrong. And that is such it's such delusional. But I know a lot of people believe this though, and I'm not trying to laugh at them because I'm probably had some of that same thoughts myself, that once I gave up the alcohol, that everything would just be like, just this wonderful place, and that nothing would be wrong, right? That everything that was wrong in my life had to be was due to alcohol. And that's not it. Alcohol was the symptom of the things that I had that were going wrong with my life, right? And because I had these things going wrong with my life, I was covering it up with alcohol. And so, and very much like people misunderstand like the economy and how to view it and all that other stuff, people think, okay, if I give up the alcohol, I'm giving up all the wrong things in my life, and then everything will be good after that. But that's not what happens. You give up the alcohol, then you expose why you were drinking. This is the harder part, right? Whew, man, getting into this stuff is very difficult, and it's not the same for everybody. And it could go from having recent impacts from, say, a divorce issue, or being fired from a career, or it could be all the way from childhood impacts, from the way that, you were treated as, as a child by your parents. Maybe it's even something that can even be ancestral, like things that are energy that you carry within you that was literally passed down from generations to generations that has now been put into you, right? And these issues now has be you wonder why alcoholism runs in a family, right? They say like, well, alcohol runs in between because of this energy, this ancestral energy that keeps getting handed down, and then they try to cover it up with alcohol, and the alcohol abuse is then now, seems to be inherent within these, within these bloodlines. But it's literally the way that we're feeling and the energies that we are carrying within us, right? And so once we understand it, once we recognize it and we see it, okay, man, I was trying to cover up these things, these are the issues that I was facing, all that other stuff. You get to set all that stuff aside. Well, guess what? Boom, man, your vibration, right? Your inner feelings, the joy, the happiness, the excitement, the ambition, all that other stuff, those emotions and feelings start to be more present within your being, within your thoughts, right? And when you carry that, your subconscious behaviors that you now interact with other people then carry that same energy levels with it. And this is the reason why good business deals and the interactions start to get better, and you're starting to find the business flow and the money starts to come in and stuff like that, is because of this rise in energy level that you are now carrying, on the fact that you have now understood why it is that you had lower energy vibration going on due to the shame and guilt and fear and frustration and madness and all the crap that was going on in your life that you tried to cover up with alcohol. Right? Did I get all that right? I mean, I'm sure some of you are probably going, yep. Yeah, right. Because it's not the same story for everybody. But it's kind of the same story for everybody. Right? They're all you go back and you tell your story, it's very unique to you. It's very unique to you. But you understand that if you're watching this video and you're listening to this to the things that I'm saying right now, that most likely this video was brought to you because of those feelings and stuff that you have. Like, this isn't an accident. Yeah. Once you figure that stuff out, the world starts opening up, right? It becomes a better place for you and opportunity begins to happen. See, if you're young and you have all you're busting a move and you got a decent little job going, and you're tucking away your $50 a month and you're building up your portfolio, and time goes on and you're feeling fairly comfortable with what it is that you got going on, you're going to have a naturally higher raised vibration, right? You're just going to feel comfortable, and subconsciously, the people around you are going to recognize that. So it's kind of like it's kind of like a self-perpetuating thing, right? But it also works in the opposite way, in that if you're in a depressive mode, it continuously pushes you down into more depression. And the more you try to cover up the depression with alcohol, the more depressed you get, and it just kind of goes on that way. You guys having fun? 260 people, a bunch of you left. Yeah, I know. That's cool, man. I mean, I know it's just like this is late night kind of talking stuff here. All right, let me back it up here a little bit and we'll see what some of you guys have to say. All right, let's start with this one right here. It says, my truth. It says, preach, brother, my spirit is going. Thank you. The shadow self, he paid with his life, which has more value than green paper. Now I use my hate to create more wealth. Does God love work? I don't know if God loves work. I mean, God loves you to be in abundance, I think. By the way, I love Kirk. I'm just effing with you. All right, Larry Bird. All right, you're a towel. I love the name. Okay. Just got here. What have I missed? Oh, man, we covered all kinds of stuff. I'm exactly where you were 8 years ago. It's time for true change. Well, good for you, Mike. And that's what I'm saying, man. You didn't stumble across this by accident, right? This video was here, you're listening to it for a reason. Understand that, right? And understand that by hearing other people's stories, to know that you're not the only one who's gone through it, or that other people are going through it right now, man. You're not alone. It's just like, know that it's not something to be even embarrassed or shamed and to feel shame about, right? It's just it happens. It's just a thing, right? And many people go through it. A lot of people don't want to admit it. They don't want to feel the shame and embarrassment or something of admitting that they have a problem with alcohol. Bro, don't stress it. Nobody cares, right? You know what people care about is that you got through it. That's what people care about. People, they don't care that you're an alcoholic, right? Some people, your family will, your mom and your sister and your brothers and your uncles and your cousins and your really close friends. They all care that you're an alcoholic. Nobody else does, right? They can care less that you drink, but they do care that you gave it up. You know how many people that I go to, and I'm at the bar and they say, "Hey, man, can I buy you a drink?" And I'm like, "Oh no, man, I appreciate it. Thanks. I don't drink. I haven't drank for 8 years." "Oh man, that's so great. That is such a good deal." Like they're all proud of you. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, like you don't have to be proud of me, man. Like you can be proud of me because you might feel like you need to give it up or something like that. I don't feel like you need to do that. And if you gave that up, hey man, I'm proud of you too for doing it. But don't be proud of me necessarily just because I happened to give it up 8 years ago out of nowhere, right? Like I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad people are proud of me for it, and I'm glad I share my story with it. But really, honestly, I think you should be proud of yourself. Be proud of yourself for saying, "Man, I'm going to commit to this thing," right? Because it doesn't. This isn't somebody else to own. It's for you to own. Like your addiction, your depression, your sobriety, all of it belongs to you. It's yours, and you shouldn't let anybody else say, "Hey, man, oh, that's real great. Hey, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you like it and all that, but this is mine, right? This is my deal. This is what I get to deal with because I put myself here, and I'm not going to let anybody else have any part of it because it's mine. I will share my story with you, right? But you need to own it for yourself just the same as I own it for myself." And it's sad, right? Because no matter what, you will never get anybody else to do it. You'll never get anybody else to be sober. They can only do it for themselves. They have to do it for themselves. They can't do it for anybody else, right? And the moment that they do, or they start thinking about somebody else's, like, about how somebody else feels about their sobriety, and it's just like, oh, like I have, like, all these people who feel this way about my sobriety. You know what, don't worry about it. Who cares about what they feel about your sobriety? It's not up to them, right? That's an expectation out there on some, like, for other people. It's like, be proud of me. That's great. I'm glad you're proud of me, man. Thank you. I mean, it's just like I appreciate it. It was hard work, it was time, it was dedication, and all that other stuff, but this is mine to own, right? And I'm going to continue to own it. And if you're proud of me or not, it's like it's not that important to me as much as me owning that I know how much I want this for myself and not necessarily for other people, right? Does that kind of make sense? Did I say that right? Because I feel like I say it and it sounds arrogant the way I say it, or it doesn't sound like I'm being, like, real compassionate towards other people's understanding of like the things that I've gone through, or maybe somebody else what they have gone through. But I'm very compassionate about it, right? But I'm also to the understanding that each individual person who's going down this road needs to own it for themselves, and they can't allow somebody else to step in and say, "Hey man, I'm going to own part of your trip here." It's not, you can't do that. Like, it's just like, "Hey man, as much as I appreciate it and you want to hold my hand and all that other stuff, I got to do this on my own because I'm the only one that this is really for." Everybody else is going to enjoy and share in the experience of what it is that I have for them, considering and what it is that I was blocking when I was drinking. Like, once I give all that up and I have my real self to bring to you, that's the reward that you give for it. You don't have to hold my hand to get there. I can do this for you, right? To understand that. All right. Larry Bird. I'm gonna get my glasses on because I can't read. All right. Gosh, I can't see for shit, guys. My vision is so bad. I I kid you not. All right. I threw up blood last night. I'm still drinking. I need this speech, bro. Well, bro, I mean, again, you didn't, you're not a viewer of this channel by accident. All right, this video isn't here for you by accident. The 258 people, 53 people who are watching, you're not watching this by accident. Whether you're drinking or not, it doesn't matter. This video wasn't brought to you by accident. Maybe there's somebody in your life that is going through this issue, and this is the reason why you were brought to this video today, is to hear this information so that you can understand why it is that they are facing the things that they are facing. All right. Who knows what it is? Maybe, maybe it was the economic information that we were talking about earlier, and that's why you're here. And then, this is a prevention video so that you don't step into the wrong direction, or you maybe remember this as you continue on in life or whatever, if you're young. Like, I know Cody's a young man, watching this channel, and I'm proud of him for taking on the desire to learn macroeconomics to the level that he is doing. And hearing our stories and reading through these comments, I know that it's going to impress him. I know it is. Like, he, whether or not it prevents him from drinking in life, I don't know that, but I know he will remember these videos, and I know he will remember the comments. All right. If he's reading them anyway. I guess I should say. All right. Alrighty, let's see here. See, and Cody's right there. All right, my dad died from alcoholism in 2018, Simon. Intense intestinal hemorrhage. See, Larry, you reading this? If anyone is struggling with sleep, Google search Ojaya meditation. Is that what it's called? I should look that up. We're going to get a half-point rate cut in September. Here we go, going back into it. Going back into economics, we should take. I don't know. I mean, we'll find out what's going to happen in September. I mean, at this point, I don't know if it's really going to make much difference. I think not cutting would have more of an impact on the economy than cutting will. All right. I honestly do. I think at this point, if they were to not cut because they have so much market certainty priced into the markets now, that it would be like more impactful, and probably you would see a more dramatic move within interest rates, like literally like a big move within interest rates if they did not cut. But if they do cut, I don't think much will happen at all. Isn't that funny? Like, if they don't want much to happen within the economy, then I think that they would cut rates, because then I think that would be exactly what everybody was anticipating, and like everybody is positioned for that, so nothing will occur. But if they want something to occur, like if they wanted like price adjustments to happen, interest rate adjustments to happen, and most likely if they don't cut, or if they do cut or don't cut, whatever it is that they do or don't do, the impact that the markets will have from that has already been, like I said, the pricing in of that. God, what am I trying to say here? I'm already stumbled over my words. So as the markets perceived an interest rate cut going into the future, if they do not cut, the markets will reverse a lot of what it is that they have done, and you will see the interest rate moves again. Now, whether or not that holds steady for any length of time, that would, take more forward guidance or whatever it is that's coming into the future from the Fed statements. But I think it would have a pretty profound impact, and you would actually see no movement of interest rates if the central bank actually cut. But if they don't cut, you would see interest rates correcting, right? Because we're seeing mortgage rates drops and stuff like that. Did I say that right? I think I did. It's getting kind of late, guys. I don't know. I'm slurring my words a little bit. All right, 250 people watching. Thank you so much for hitting that like button. We got another super chat here. We got Kim Tu Sung the first. Gotta take responsibility. I started buying silver because of your analysis, not as an investment, but as a hedge against hyperinflation. Well, thank you, Kim. I appreciate the $5 super chat. That's very generous of you. And again, like, I appreciate your You're saying, man, it's because of your videos and the analysis and stuff like that. That's the reason why I bought silver. But and for your reasons, and I totally respect your opinion on everything. Don't think that I'm trying to knock it or anything when I say this, but I probably didn't suggest it as a hedge against hyperinflation. That's not what I've done, right? Because I've never believed that silver has protected me from inflation, and I certainly don't think it would protect me from a hyperinflation scenario that I didn't believe that was coming. So my analysis on silver like might have convinced you to go ahead and buy it, but you convinced yourself of the hedge for hyperinflation part of things. I didn't do that to you. Right. Now, whether if you took that from the videos that I had made, that's again like I'm giving my opinion. I've shared a lot of links and thoughts and opinions and economic views, and you might have formed your own opinion on that from my video saying, no, I saw it, but I disagreed with some of the things you said, and I formed my own opinion that says I'm buying silver for a hedge against hyperinflation. And with that, I still thank you, right? I mean, thank you for not only watching the videos, but then taking the analysis and forming your own opinion from it, because that's truly what I want people to do. Right? That is exactly what I would want people to do with that information. So, let's see here. Agree. The best thing you can give your kids is time and unconditional love. It's never forgotten and it's always returned. The magic formula. Yeah. Let's see here. My kids won't because I don't expect them to take care of me for free. My grandpa is 80 and he still moves freely. Not everyone ages bad. Yep. That old man that I was telling you about who started the business at 50 and sold it at 65, well, he continued to do, he was working in like HVAC kind of stuff, right? So he basically had a heating supply, right? So he sold that business off. But the thing is that he did maintenance on a lot of people's like, furnaces and oil furnaces and, all this other stuff. And he continues to do that. He still continues to maintain a lot of this stuff. And he comes into the store. Homeboy is old. Like homeboy is old, old. Right. And he's still moving. He comes in, he was just like, yeah, I need to know how much, posts are gonna be for a barn. And I'm like, are you really building a barn? He was like, yeah, I'm building a shop. He's like the guy's like, in his late 80s. I'm like, what the hell are you gonna do with a barn, bro? Like, what are you gonna do with it, man? But he's got his plans and he's got time and he's got projects to do. And he didn't like I didn't ask him that question. I didn't. But that's what was going through my head. And I'm like, what in the world are you gonna need a barn for, man? I mean, you're like in your late 80s, you're in your 80s. But it's like to him that doesn't matter. It's like he's got a whole list of stuff and projects and things going on, and death isn't part of the list, right? But a barn and equipment and all the other things that he's got going on is part of his list. And so that's what he does. And I mean that's motivation, man. I mean, I hope I have half the ambition that dude has when I'm his age. I don't even think I have half the ambition now. So it's just like, I mean, it was just like to have half the ambition at his age. I don't even think I have that now. I can't imagine, what it's going to be like when, to be 80 years old and trying to do that kind of thing. Let's cruise down here to the bottom real quick. Okay. You should see my silver PowerPoint, which I was working but lost interest because it's boring. Kim. Well, Cody, you got to understand the topic that we cover is a boring topic to begin with. And so, if you get bored with it, I understand that part of it. But to know that it is a boring topic and we have to keep interest in it if we are going to keep it alive. And a lot of times the only way that people really find interest in it is if they have like this doomsday kind of scary end of the world type of idea going on behind it. And really, that's not very helpful. The information that you have put together in your short presentation is helpful information. And although it's not exactly exciting, helpful, useful information gets rewarded. right? Entertainment is somewhat valuable, right? And if it's scary entertainment, people find that, again, got perceived value in it. So even though you got fear mongering, end of the world type of stuff that's trying to present this information, and they seem to do quite successful at it with a lot of attention to it, it's not necessarily good value, it's perceived value. What you are offering is real value, right? And the real value is rewarded as well, right? Perceived value is rewarded because, it's just value is rewarded no matter what, even if it's perceived, right? But real value is rewarded as well. And now, whether it comes in monetary form or in the value of just the research and knowledge and understanding what it is that you have for your level of understanding in economics, could be the value that you are gaining from putting those video or that presentation together. But understand that what you are doing is valuable, right? And boring is kind of part of it. Alrighty. Modern day life is quite entertaining. Damn it, man! That movie gave me night terrors. That a Freddy Krueger. Now I'm gonna struggle to sleep because leprechauns. Listening to you while I play video games isn't boring. Isn't boring. Things that give me post-traumatic stress or PTSD, post-traumatic stress from school is boring. All right. We invest in skateboards because we value them. Right? It's not the end of the world, it's the end of this world and the start of the next one. I don't know. To me, like I don't know. To me, it's just like the world is just what it is, man. And like the end of an era. Okay, well, whatever. I mean, I guess that comes an end of a time, a new beginnings, whatever. I'm in the middle of it. I'm in the thick of it right now. So I'm not at the beginning or the end. I'm in the middle of it. Always. I'm always in the middle of it. And so I don't think about a new beginning or a new chapter or anything like that. Like, I guess in the sense that, if I make a change in my life, like giving up alcohol, that's a major change in chapter or whatever. But still, when I gave up alcohol, I was in the middle of going through a process of something at the time. So I'm always in the middle of it. That's the way I see it. It's like there is no beginning or end. It's just the constant. You know? Like, because to me, like I don't know of an outcome. Like people are like, what do you like? Is there like I have goals in mind? I have like particular things that I would like to achieve. It's amazing to have goals in your life and then have them like in your head and then kind of forget about like actual like achieving those things, but going down the path of what it would take to actually get there, but not knowing exactly how you would do that, right? Like I always had this dream of being able to be on stage sharing my ideas and opinions with people. And then I was able to do it. I always had this idea I'd like to meet Ron Paul. Well, I got to speak on stage to the same group on the same stage as Ron Paul. I think that on the same day, like I went on at 9 o'clock in the morning, he went on at like 5 o'clock in the evening, on the same stage to the same group of people, and I thought, damn, I didn't get to meet him, but that was damn close, right? All this stuff, like I didn't really plan it. Subconsciously, it just occurred. Like I not subconsciously, it occurred. Subconsciously, I did the things that make it occur and I didn't really plan it out or anything like that. But knowing that these were things that I wanted to do in my life and they were goals that I had set way back, way before I started the YouTube channel or even really was thinking that I was going to be like, that involved in economics, those were two things that I had said to myself. It would be cool to be on stage and it would be cool to meet Ron Paul. And one day that happened. It happened in a single day. And I thought, man, yeah, you can achieve your goals. You just think of the goals that you want to achieve, and then you start going down the steps of getting there and forget about actually making the goal happen, but just go down the process of getting to that goal. All right. And the process of going down that goal, whether or not you actually make it there, is probably less important than all the experience and the traveling of getting there or in the attempt of getting there was more valuable and exciting and beneficial to your life than the actual goal was itself, right? Anyhow, okay, moving on. We got Jack Stewart with the $5. I was at lunch break night. Well, golly, I can't see for crap. Okay. I was at lunch break night. Sorry. Unfortunately, I have to go back. I will watch you in the future land. More money towards and six-pack of NA beer. I appreciate it. Yeah, in fact, what did I buy? Some Guinness. I bought some Guinness stout, uh, non-alcoholic beer today, and surprisingly, it was pretty good. It was, it's really dark, stout beer, and I enjoy those every once in a while. All right. For where your treasures is, there your heart will be also. Yeah. All right. The games are coming to a game over. What's your opinion on Masonic images on our money? Oh, yeah. I dove into a lot of those conspiracy theories and stuff, and it's pretty interesting to see some of that, all the symbolism that's going on within the dollar, within the money, within the whole government itself. I mean, even the layout of, like, Washington, D.C. and all kinds of stuff. It has all kinds of Masonic and that kind of, like, elite kind of secretive group kind of thing going on behind it all the past presidents and all the other stuff being, Masonic leaders and or Masonic members and stuff. Um, Very little doubt in my mind about that, about how it exists and how it probably has different levels of, obviously different levels of existence to it, how it plays an important role within the government and the laying out of our the foundation of our government and the system in which it was in. Um, but there's also a lot of room to have conspiracy theory role within that, since it's such a secretive kind of thing going on. And so it doesn't really allow for, like, the truth, of the matter to be out. And so it leads for a lot of, like, wild thinking and probably a lot of truth within that wild thinking. But that's the problem with it is that it ends up throwing, like, what may be some real truth, and then it gets spun into, gets sensationalized and blown way out of proportion. And so it makes it difficult to then look at this thing and give it, like, with any kind of real credible thought saying, okay, well, we can understand this information for what it really is, but we can't, because most of it is very secretive. So then again, it makes for really fun story and tinfoil hat wearing kind of stuff. Um, and knowing that the reality of the situation is that there is a lot of truth that's, going into the, secret societies that control the government. But again, like, it's so plagued with conspiracy theory as well that it's hard to distinguish what the truth is from from just the storytelling. Yeah. But I think it's pretty cool, like, to see it on there and witness it, and all that other stuff. All right, deja vu. When I hit a jackpot, it's not as satisfying as getting there. Yeah. Yes, and that's why you teeth 10% to God and his in this earth. You're right that you never said silver is a hedge. That's my own opinion based on historic value of silver and inflatable fiat currencies. The analysis of the channel just helped me come to that console. Well, thank you, Kim. Yeah, I appreciate it. And like I said, no, I'm glad that you were able to use, like, the information to form your own opinion that might be different from mine, because that's exactly what I would hope to hear coming from, people who are following this channel for economic information, is to hear something just like that. And it was just like, I don't necessarily agree with you, but the information that you presented did give me the ability to form an opinion. So thank you. And it was just like, you're welcome, and I feel great about that. Like, yeah, and I can walk away feeling satisfied that, I had my opinion and presented the information in a way that somebody was able to take it and say, I'm going to dismiss your opinion about that, Simon, and I'm going to take it, the information that you presented and make my own opinion from that, and go on with it and conduct my life. That's amazing. That's exactly what I would want to hear. Like exactly to a, in every way. All right. Peace to you, we in chat. All right, Larry, you out of here. I find myself coming to realization that one final great laugh is all that matters in this reality we're all in fellas. Oh, we're all in fellas. I see. Well, yeah, I guess laughing is great medicine. The CIA directors too. All right. I'm not scared. I was a Boy Scout before they went woke. There's a little owl in the left corner of the dollar bill. Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's that little tiny owl up there in the corner. The all-seeing eye, all the stuff. Oh, gosh, I'm getting tired here, guys. Truth, did someone say my name? All right. If you, you're going in family stuff. All right. Alex Jones was right. 100. Yeah, Douglas. I liked Alex Jones. The only problem is, it's just like I was saying, he would take a little bit of like information and truth and sensationalize it, and I understand why he would do that, because he was making money off of it. And I mean, I don't like admitting it, but I've done it myself, or I'll sensationalize a story and tried, maybe even with the title of a video or even just within the video itself. And guess what? You make more money when you do it. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I put out an insane amount of information that I share my opinion with that is different from everybody else's, and I'm not trying to contradict people just simply to be a devil's advocate. This is truly my understanding and beliefs about the economy and the way I see it. Like, truly, 100%. Right? And I'm not trying to blow anything out of proportion or sensationalize anything for dramatic effects so that I can get a bunch of attention for it and then make a bunch of money off of it. Have I done that? Yes. Yes, I have. Will I do it again? Probably, right? And I'm not trying to say that I'm proud of that or not proud of it. It's just the way it is if you want to get attention. That's why news headlines are always about traumatic, impactful, scary things that are happening out there, because nobody would buy the newspaper if they didn't have that kind of headline going on. And that's just, again, it's the unfortunate consequence of human nature, right? So what happens? Right? I can put out good information that I feel is very appropriate for understanding how the macroeconomics and monetary policy works and all this other stuff, and very few people will watch it. But I put a video talking about how the stock market crashes and everybody dies, and it'll get a lot of views. So not only does it get more attention, I make more money off of it. Now, what am I supposed to do? Put out information I think is useful that nobody's going to watch? Or do I put out some scary titled, clickbaiting titled video that throws a lot of fear out there to the people, and then try and drop some information in there that is useful so that I can get that information out there to the public and make some money at the same time? Like, what am I supposed to do? So I just kind of do what I do. My brother's an alcoholic, gave up alcohol. He retreated into mental illness. Yeah, and again, Edward, I've said it before. Like, when you give up alcohol, that's when the work begins. That's when the exposing of the reasons why you have been drinking are now shown, and you have to deal with that. And a lot of times that is too much for a lot of people, and they will slip back into drinking again. Right? This is the reason why people relapse. Is because it's too difficult of a task to try and continue on not drinking and dealing with the mental health issues. And then as people start to deal with the mental health issues, issues, they start to become awakened to all the past traumas that they were exposed to, and they realize, man, I'm a chronic depressant. I have been chronically depressed my whole life. And they'll think to themselves, how the hell did I live my entire life being this way and just now finally realizing it? And that's too much for them. They can't handle that. Right? And that's like, that's why it's just, it's not, I try to tell people as often as I can that when you give up drinking, it's not like the world gets better. It doesn't. In fact, it exposes how shitty everything is. And so now it's just like, crap, why did I even give up drinking if it's just going to expose how crappy everything is? But then you deal with all that, and then it's all like it's like, aha, okay, I get it now, right? That's why, okay, I had to give up drinking in order to deal with all this other stuff, and okay, I get it now, right? Because I had to go through all this other process of dealing with all this other crap, and I couldn't do that if I was drinking, right? So once you get through all that, then it's be like, okay, I get it now, right? But you have to go through that part of it too. So getting through the drinking part of it, just quitting drinking is difficult enough on its own. And people think, okay, that's all I had to do, but it's not. It's not all that has to be done. It has to, and then the work really begins off of it, because giving up the drinking is the hardest part of it. It's like the most difficult thing. But then work begins after that. Like, it doesn't take work to give up drinking. Like, that doesn't take work. It's just like, you just don't do it, right? You just give up drinking. You don't drink, right? That isn't work. The work is not drinking. That's what takes work, right? And to have to, I mean, it's the mental health part of it. Like, that's the work of it, because what you want to do is to drink and not have to deal with the work, which is dealing with the mental health issues that was causing you to drink in the first place. Right? All right. I don't really drink, but I wasted lots of money on entertainment and just stupid stuff I didn't need. Yeah. And it's just like, everybody has their thing. Like, everybody has a vice of their own. Like, for me, I mean, I admit to what it was. To other people, it could have been gambling, and to other people, like, I don't know, whatever it is that you got in your life, man. I mean, but to everybody, it could be a little different. Thanks for making me look good at a party. They started talking about neutral interest rates, how the Fed benefited from COVID, and the Cantillon effect. Right on. Sanity just a troll who lives by himself, kind of sad. Sorry about the misspellings, type fast. I'm walking back to work. Simon, have you fallen off the wagon back in the bottle? Are you drinking again? Nope. I haven't drank in years, man. I haven't drank in a very long time, and I have drank beer, but it was all non-alcoholic. I've never drank anything that had alcohol in it since Freddie was like 2 years old. Like, he was a very young child, and I don't even remember it. Like, I don't even remember the last time I drank. Like, but I don't drink. I just simply just don't do it. And there's times that I would like to. Like, every day at 4 o'clock, I want to. Every day at work at 4 o'clock, I still get the, man, it would be nice to get a beer after work feeling. Right? And I think that's something that will probably never, ever, ever, ever go away. And it doesn't, like, trigger me to the point that, man, it's hitting me hard today to do this. No, it doesn't hit me like that. It's just something that I think about, and then it fades away. By 4:30, I don't even think about it anymore. I jump in my car and I drive right on home, and I don't even think about the store or anything else. Like, there would be times where it was just like, you couldn't help it. You would just like, the car would just turn itself into the damn store to go get the damn booze, and, but that doesn't happen anymore. Look at the smirk on Franklin on the $100 bill. What is that? Sig, my mistake. It's on the front. Retail therapy. Yeah, people do that. Franklin was ladies' man. He probably always had that smirk. Spending money on entertainment isn't the worst thing. Franklin wasn't a true player. Or Franklin was a true player. Just the top, just to the top left side of the T in the. You guys are talking about the owl. I'll show you. I don't have a dollar on me. I'll show it to you. Franklin was not that good looking. He probably did only ugly women. Well, Edward, it doesn't matter. Women don't care about the way you look. I mean, they can. The initial attraction is about the way you look, but women don't care about the way you look. They don't care about the money you make, and they don't care about anything of that stuff, right? All that superficial crap they don't care about. What they care about is the congruence of a man, right? They can care about the masculinity, the strength, the leadership, the confidence, that kind of thing. That's what they find attractive. Features are attractive in the initial, like, oh, wow, look at that, right? That will get them. But if you are, if you don't prove those qualities to be strong leadership, masculine, confident, all those things that are internal stuff, she will not find you attractive. And it doesn't matter what you really look like. If you are to exude those sort of traits within you, women will find that attractive. Right? They find that behavior attractive. They can't help it. It's hardwired into them, right? They're falling for leadership, quality, strength, confidence, stability, provision, stuff like that. Right? That's what they find attractive. Men find looks attractive. Like that's like men walk into a room and be like, yep, nope, yep, nope, yep, nope, right? That's not the way women do it, right? Women have to go and get to understand and know and deal with the man. So, you know, ugly doesn't matter. Seen like chicks hook up with like some of the weirdest, ugliest dudes because, All right. I don't drink unless it's all and blackout drinking isn't fun for me because I have an insane addictive personality. It's what it gets you, man. I mean, that's the case. It's like, and that's what a lot of people is probably ancestral. And again, like, once you recognize it out of yourself, and it's just like, man, I got to do things better for myself. Then it's easy. You just know, man, I'm gonna end up a drunk, belligerent asshole if I continue on. Damn it, I just saw the notification. Well, all-nighter? Dang, man. Well, how long you been here? I'm going to have to call it quits here in just a little bit. I don't want to quite yet, though. Alright. No, Simon, your woman doesn't care about that stuff. Believe me, others do. Uh-huh. Alright. Kirk, is the scripture that got you, or is it saying my kids will take care of my God willing? Hey Larry, Franklin went to Paris with a coon hat on. Women started dressing their hair to look like a coon hat. They like your confidence when they whip their hair walking past you. Tattoos, felony charges, ankle monitors, bad boys, that makes them moist. So, like, it's not just that, it's the idea of, like, the hardcore do whatever you want kind of attitude. So, like, the bad boy is the dude who has the confidence to just do whatever the hell he wants, and that's what's exciting to it. It's not necessarily that they're a bad dude. It's that the bad dude generally is showing confidence in what it is that he's doing out there because he's doing whatever the hell he wants. And that's what's they find attractive. That's the trigger, right? Is that exuding of confidence in it. It just happens to come out inside of somebody who with bad behavior because they happen to show confidence inside of their bad behavior, which is risky, and risk takes confidence. And so if you're willing to be risky and confident in everything that you're doing, that ends up being the trigger, right? It's not that, they like bad events or anything like that. It's just that they like the confidence that's behind it. Let's see here. Your gold and silver are, what is that? Correlated? It's a correlator. The very wealth you were counting on will eat away your flesh like fire. Is correlated? What is that? Treasure you have hoarded will testify against you on the day of judgment. Ye gads. Alright, I'm not sure what all that means. Okay, my wife is from Mexico. I live with my parents. Being able to kick ass and not care about what other things. There you go. Now that's it right there. Right? To be able to kick ass and not care about what other people think. Right? See, that was like, I think that's probably one of the success of this channel is that, from the very beginning, I didn't care what anybody else thought, what anybody else said. Like, I do care what people say. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I do care, right? I mean, I care, right? I care a lot about things, but I don't necessarily care to be like, I am not nervous or worried about coming out and saying something that is completely different from everybody else out there. And then saying it like, no, they're like 99% of the people out there have it wrong. And I will stick to my guns that I have it right and that everybody else has it wrong, which means that I must be the crazy one. Fine. I must be delusional. I must be crazy. I've lost my mind. I will be willing to admit it. And every single document that I have that proves my case from the Federal Reserve is only going to solidify the fact that I am 100% crazy and that everybody else must be sane and got it all right, right? Like, that must be the case. But that's what I'm going to stick to because that's what I truly believe. And that if I am saying stuff that 99% of the people out there have disagreed with, so be it, man. This is the information that I have found. I didn't go and get it regurgitated from other people who are regurgitating the same stuff that they have picked up and regurgitated out there for everybody else to hear because it seems to be the exact same BS that's being spilled out over and over and over again. And yet I go and find information that seems to be very different from everybody else. And I've gotten proof of it within documents of the monetary policy providers and, policymakers themselves. And I'm thinking, okay, well, if I'm the only one who's going to talk about this, then I'm going to be the only one who talks about this. And I'm going to continue to talk about it. And I'm not going to let it go. Because the moment that I let it go, nobody else will be talking about it anymore. And then and I feel like, I don't necessarily feel like they'll won, but then I'll feel that the ability for people to be able to make the most appropriate for themselves decision for themselves will have been lost, right? If nobody else is sharing the information, it's like I have to do this because there's nobody else doing it, you know. And I'm hoping, like, I find articles that get so close. They get so close. It's just like, man, you're almost there. Like they're like, if I could just get to them and say, man, if you could just talk about these few things and change these few things around, this article be right in line with what it is that the Federal Reserve has been communicating through their monetary policy and their speeches and everything else. This article is almost there, but then it's not. It's not. And what do? I can't make them do it right, or at least in my opinion, right? Okay. All right. Kids today are going to school way too long. When I was high school in 2008, I had 8 hours of homework every day. All the good paying jobs went to China anyway. The saying, We don't need you, but you need us. Kirk, you say salvation is free. Crazy is subjective. Yeah, it really is all-nighter, isn't it? All right, you getting that free salvation. You're only crazy if you're poor. If you're wealthy, it's called being eccentric. Yeah, but I mean, I feel like honestly, I feel like when I'm talking economics, that a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy. They say, "Man, you have lost it. You have no idea, whatever." And I'm thinking, "Man, you guys don't have any like you do on my channel here because you follow me so much." But a lot of people that hear this information for the first time are so blown away by the idea of it. It's just like it is hard for them to even wrap their head around. And then even people who understand a lot of the information to present it to them in such a way that I have to say, hey, this is what's truly going on with the monetary policy. To them, it's like they have a hard time fathoming. And they're um, it's such a mind warp twist from what it is that they have already committed to their ideas that they can't let go of that original idea in order to absorb this new changed concept coming from the Federal Reserve. It is so hard for them to like let go of their original belief in order to internalize this idea. It just is impossible. It's like literally impossible for them to take it in, and they'll never get it ever, right? Until the day that they decide that I gotta let it go. I gotta let this stuff go so I can try and take this other new information in. But people are so hardened into what it is that they believe. It's very difficult for them to do that. Alrighty. Looking back as it, I think kids should just drop out of school after 8th grade. That's how the Amish do it. Look how successful they are. I don't know about that. All right. They can't see the bird's eye view of the true American. Being born again is a choice. All right, Simon, I'm praying for you and your sobriety. You don't have to pray for me. It's all right, man. I mean, I got it going on okay. I can deal with it. And that's what's kind of cool about it is like at this point, like I don't have any desire. Like I do have desire to drink. Like there's times where I'm seeing like everybody's kind of hanging out and chilling. They got a few drinks into them and they're vibing and all that other stuff. And you can tell there's a different energy that is carried when the people start to drink and you're the sober one, and all of a sudden you're like, boom, you're on the outside, right? You're not vibing, you're not up there with them doing their thing, right? And that's sort of difficult to end up being in that kind of circle, right? So that is a little bit of a hard one to try and like, deal with as far as like being out there in a group and watching that kind of go on. But, you know, ultimately it isn't that, it isn't that bad. And you just kind of realize that, your friends aren't going to be the same friends anymore. All right, alcohol has cost dudes a lot of money. They go to the bar and get intoxicated. They meet a woman and get her pregnant. If if he was at a library, that would probably not have happened. Well, yeah, I guess so. All right, Simon, what's your favorite meal to cook for the family? Um, I like grilling meat. So I like cooking stuff outside. Like anything I can cook outside, that's the what I like to do. And like today I had bought this kind of is a cheaper smoker, right? But it's what do they call like a water smoker or something. Anyway, it's kind of like a cylinder smoker. Coals go down on the bottom. There's like a water tray that you put in there and then you put your meat above it or whatever. And it's pretty simple little design, not much to it. But, I picked this thing up for fairly cheap price. It was on sale, and so I'm thinking, well, I don't have one, so let's play with that. So anyway, that has a pork loin and a chicken on it, and I'm that was been going all day. So before I started the video, I had that actually. I just threw a little bit of more coals and chips on it before I started the video. So I'd imagine once I stop this, I'll probably go out there and pull that thing off the smoker, and we'll have that for tomorrow. Anyway, I don't know. I like cooking outside. Anything outside. That's what I like to do. I understand all the facts that you explain about, and I have had time using that knowledge in my daily life. I have a hard time using that knowledge in my daily life. I don't think you do, Pedro. I don't think you do. See, the thing is like if you have listened, like let me see. You have understand all the facts. And I don't know. I mean, all the facts. That's pretty good. I don't even know if I know all the facts. So if you got it all, that's pretty good. But if you have internalized this information, truly internalized it, be able to explain it like I can explain it. You know, like say, hey man, I can tell you all about the neutral interest rate and how that impacts the Fed funds rate and how that was a problem, like the low neutral interest rate policy, to be able to explain the things inside of the speech. If you can do all that stuff, you are naturally making decisions that are appropriate for your life. Now, you may not feel like you have this grand life coming to you because you're not motivated to take on the business or something. I'm not trying to say that about you. I'm just saying in generally, it might be something else that's holding you back. But if you have truly internalized this information, you are making decisions that are appropriate for you in relation to understanding what this information is going to do. Right? Like a lot of people say, no, if you said I took this information, I'd be rich. I never said that. I said you'd be making the most appropriate decisions for yourself. Now, if you want to be rich, you have to go out there and figure out the business. You have to figure out the investments. You have to figure out the properties to buy. You have to figure out that part of things, right? But to understand that when you go through that process, understanding the information that I have presented is going to be helping you when you make those decisions. If you were buying rental property at the end of last year with the anticipation that there was going to be 7 rate cuts coming and not understanding the information that I was presenting at the same time, saying those are not promises and that those rate cuts very well could not occur or may not occur, right? By internalizing that information before you bought the property, you could have taken the position saying, yes, I'm going to buy the property with the knowledge that this may not occur due to the fact that the uneducated economist has actually stated it, right? Now you have internalized it, right? Now, I'm not saying the uneducated economist has said it. You just remember the video. The uneducated economist was talking about something that the Federal Reserve was talking about. But you remember the uneducated economist talking about it. You have internalized that information. When you're sitting there going to buy that property and you hear the real estate agent saying, oh, you'll always be able to refinance into the future. And you're thinking, I may not, but that's okay, right? Because I understand the consequences of buying this property and not having the ability to refinance it into the future, and I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay with purchasing this with the idea that I can refinance it into the future and then not having that ability. That would be a consequence I'm not willing to deal with, right? Do you see how you can internalize this information so that you can make the best appropriate decision for yourself? Even you don't know what the outcome was, but you know that there's a possibility. You're listening to a real estate agent saying this thing, you know damn well that they're just trying to sell it to you, but that you understand for yourself the true economic conditions that are happening out there, and that even if you did buy this property with the promise coming from the real estate agent that you'd be able to refinance it into the future, even if that didn't occur, you may be okay with that and understanding how that may not occur. But if you're making your decision based on the idea that there's going to be future interest rate cuts, and you have this real estate agent who's promising you that you can do it, and you go and make that purchase with the idea that you can have interest rate cuts coming in the future, and the future comes and there's no rate cuts available for you, then what? All right. Well, had you internalized the information, you might have been able to make the most best appropriate decision for yourself way back then when that real estate agent was saying you'll always be able to cut into the future, and you could be like, okay, well, I'm not. Okay, thank you for your opinion, but I'm going to let that one go for just a minute while I assess whether or not I can deal with this property if I don't have the ability to refinance it. Does that help? I mean, I don't know how this information doesn't help you. Like if you truly understood it, and like you say you did, and you got all the facts, then there's no way that you could be making decisions that are not appropriate for yourself. There's just no way. Now, you might be wishing and hoping and dreaming that the information will make you a billionaire or a millionaire or just be like have a decent life. Go for it, man. Like there's nothing stopping you. You have to build it. It doesn't come naturally. You don't just, I get the information and now just magically money flows to me without me doing anything at all. Well, does that like is that what you're looking for? Of course not, right? Man, you know as well as everybody else does that you have to build whatever it is that you want in your life. And it's a piece at a time. And nobody looks at an entire house saying, "Hey, where's that one stud? That one 2x4 at? You remember that one that you put there? You remember? Tell me about that time that one stud into place." It doesn't go down like that. Nobody talks about building a house like that. Right? They don't talk about each and every individual stud and piece of sheathing and every piece of trim that they put into place. They don't talk about it like that. They talk about the entire project as a whole. This thing that I built over time took pieces and pieces and pieces of it all to go together to make it happen. And then once you do, then you have your richness, your wealth, or whatever it is that you got. Alrighty, guys. I think it's getting late. What time is it? It's 2 hours into this live stream, where it's like 10 o'clock at night right now on the West Coast. We got a live stream to do here in a few hours. We're going to come back out here at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, West Coast time, to review Fed's speech talking about the interconnectedness of transactions, and we'll see what they had to say about that. I think it's going to be a great speech. Not exactly the most exciting monetary policy, telling you about what it is that's going on as far as interest rates and stuff like that. But I think it's a good speech and very informative about how it is that they plan on conducting transactions going into the future. And since a lot of people are very looking at like central bank digital currencies and stuff, I think this is kind of like that discussion in parts of it. So it's really important to read through that stuff as well. Unless the stud is missing from the living room floor, Simon is right about the future. There will be two classes: the asset capitalist property owners class and everyone else. But we're all here listening to UE, so I know we're all gonna make it. Well, Alex, I don't know if we're necessarily all going to make it, but we're all going to understand why it is that it's occurring, right? Like, I wish and hope and dream and pray that I can get on the other side of the wedge, right? I'm doing my best. Like, I don't know what else that I could be. I'm actually, that's not true. There's more that I could be doing. I'm doing a lot. Could be doing more to get on the other side of the wedge. Some people are expecting that there's going to be somebody that they can vote for that will prevent the wedge from getting any bigger, or somehow even elevate them to the other side of the wedge. Like, I'm not sure how that works, but whatever. Like, but there's people out there who are not taking the position for themselves to deal with it. So knowing how it's happening, that there's going to be the property owner, the capitalist, right? They're going to be on the other side of the wedge. That's how you get there, is by being one of those people. And then there's going to be everybody else, the working class citizens, those who have not acquired assets, those who do not have property, and those who are going to have to suffer the consequences of working their entire life to never, ever really have anything of any kind of value that is that of the property owners and capitalists that are out there, right? I mean, again, like, it's not difficult to see it happening. I mean, everybody sees it happening. It's very difficult to understand why it's happening. And then it's even harder to understand what it is that you need to do to be on that other side of that wedge, right? Because most people do not want to give up the pleasurable experiences of their life. They work hard all day, weekend come, they want to party it up. That right there is probably the number one thing that prevents people from being on the other side of the wedge, is the pleasurable experiences, right? The dives in the luxuries. Those are the things that does it. And this isn't a game that you can screw around with. If you're young, you can kind of screw around a little bit, right? You can screw up a little bit. You can kind of get through your 20s not really knowing what you're doing. But again, like we kind of talked about this earlier, the more that time goes on, the less of the opportunity that you have to take compounding interest to your advantage. The youth has that. So the youth can really screw it up and then screw up their kind of in their entire life, so long as they don't screw that part up. Right. And so as long as they're disciplined to that particular part of their life where they put that money towards that particular account and they do it religiously, and they were committed to it, then most likely, because they were able to do that, they were just making decisions that are naturally good throughout the rest of their life anyway, because they were so committed in their early days. This isn't again, this isn't a game. And I mean, a lot of people think that it's just like, well, it's not fair, Well, fair is if you're playing a game, right? That means like, hey, we have this like rules and we make it fair so that we can see who can win. This isn't a game. This isn't like, this isn't a matter of if it's fair, right? That's not the way this works. This is survival of the fittest. This is like, the strongest will survive kind of thing. And there's like, I don't know why people like saying, oh no, I'm not going to accept that. I'm going to live this life that it's where we all participate, where it's fair and equal and right. It was just like, okay, well, let's go ahead and wish and hope and dream and pray for that, right? Because I would like that too. Like I would like a life that would, have some kind of, look something similar to that. But I don't believe that's going to be the case. And since I don't believe that, I'm not going to really put that much effort into making sure that it's fair for other people who are not making sure that it's fair for me. So I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go and get what I need for my life and my family and all that other stuff, because I know this world is full of abundance that everybody could go and get for themselves. So fair? Yeah, it's fair. It's fair game right now. Go out there and get it. Oh, gosh, guys. Okay, it's getting late. I've said it a ton now. I can't even hardly talk. 229 people with 220 likes. How can I give up when we have more likes than we have people watching? I love it. All right. Let's cruise up here a little bit. That is correct. Live in your car and rent out the house that you buy with your money from your work. Deplorable. Like I'm not doing quite that. I'm raising my family, but when I'm done raising my family with this house, it will become rental income, right? Or I might sell it. I mean, whatever it is that I got going on at the time. But this is a temporary thing. My payment into this house and living here in my mind, is a very temporary thing. I do not plan on making the payments on this house until I'm 80 years old. That is very, like, that, just saying it out loud makes my stomach hurt. I'm not going to do that, right? But I do plan on making the payments and doing all that so long as I'm raising my family here, because that's my intention on this house. But once I'm through that part of it, this property, I would hope to either cash out on or turn into cash flow. And that's my intentions for this particular piece of property. And then from, at that point, hopefully I'll have other properties or have some sort of other way of making income so that Sarah and I can get in our little RV van life thing and go cruise across America and check out music festivals and do Uneducated Economist from the road. That's my plan, right? And so I will be living in my car by that point. All right. Some commercial jobs, yes. Residential are day jobs. Okay. How many years until you turn it to rental, Simon? Well, I don't know. Like, Freddie's like, 9, so I'm thinking like 10 years, maybe. Nice towel. I'm just starting my portfolio. Oh, I see. Do you work for HOA too? I don't know if that is so. Sanity personally gives nothing but can print out scripture. Impressive. Have you considered writing, publishing your theories? The credible threat theory seems like something that future economists should be able to study. It might be lost if only in videos. Yes, I have, Kim, and that's actually I don't know if these longer stream videos that I've been doing over the last 6 months to like almost going on a year now, but I have done these very long live streams and I've done like multiple of them in a day. And I'm starting to do them on other platforms. And I'm not exactly sure why I have been doing this, but it feels like I have been prepping myself up for something. And I'm not exactly sure what that was. But now that when I read your comment, it just kind of solidifies a lot of what it is that I have been thinking about as far as creating a guide, like some sort of economics guide to understanding the four economic theories, including the credible threat theory, kind of like the uneducated economist guide to understanding economics from the working class point of view. And it's like I've done a few like speaking engagements where I've kind of, thrown out this theory or this kind of understanding, and it's very well accepted. Like people really enjoy it. And I honestly feel like once you have internalized those four economic theories, the credible threat theory, and taken it in personally, to your own personal view for a while, like I think you honestly feel like you have cracked the code after that. Like you get it. Like you get how the economy works. You understand why it is that the gold standard you understand more about the gold standard and why it could or couldn't work or won't work with the United States, why it would be that BRICS nations would want gold standard, and how it is that having a BRICS nations with a gold standard would mean that there would be very little transactions ability for the rest of the globe out there if they were to abandon the dollar. And this whole understanding of how this all works is very difficult without like internalizing it over many years and having somebody kind of explain it to you. It's not easy, right? Especially in the way I'm seeing it, which is like what I feel is very unique. I don't know if anybody else could quite explain the economy like I can, right? Like the view that I have. There's plenty of people out there who have excellent view of the economy. They are very professional. They are very deep in their understanding and research and knowledge and everything else about the economy. But when it comes to understanding the economy from a working class point of view, I don't think anybody's got it better than I do. Like those people who typically talk about the economy do not relate to us. Now, there was a time that a lot of them may have been in a position in which that they were working class. They're not anymore. Right? They're not anymore. And when you hear a lot of them speak, they're speaking out of desperation to save themselves. They're on the other side of the wedge. They don't live the same life. Right? I feel like I am trying to get myself on the other side of the wedge. I don't feel like I've done it. Like I feel like I'm somewhere like floating around there in the middle and I could go either way at this point. Right? I mean, the efforts and everything else that I'm putting forth, I feel that will carry me to the other side of the wedge if I can continue to do that. But if I was to give that up now, I'd be back down at the bottom and I'd probably be in the gutter in no time at all. Right? So putting forth the effort every single day in doing this is like, I feel is like very important in order to acquire those things. But most economists, when they're like talking about the economy, they're already on the other side of the wedge. They have no idea what it would be like to try and start from nothing with no idea and no knowledge of how anything works to get themselves up to that sort of level. And it's just like, come on, man. Those guys cannot possibly relate to what it is that's going on like we can. Even if you were to say, even if they were to say, no, man, I was like a broke ass construction worker like you one time. That was a while ago. You're not living the same life today. Like there was a time when a good construction job would pay. It would pay enough to have the life and the wife and the family and the kids and all the other stuff. Today, not so much. There's probably places in the country it's possible, but for the most part, you're going to struggle. And it's going to be a very difficult time. And it's just not the same. It's not the same conditions. And I recognize it for what it is. It was just like, man, in order to get on the other side of the wedge, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Like your day job, side hustles, very disciplined in what it is that you're putting your money towards. It's going to take all that effort combined, right? Without slipping up, without screwing up. Like, you can screw up a little bit, but don't count on being able to save yourself even if you screw up a little bit. Just count on the fact that you are going to have to definitely do something about it, or else you're going to get left behind. All right. Guys, this was a lot of fun. There was so many comments going on out there, but I need to go check on my smoker, and it's getting late, and we have another live stream to do first thing in the morning, so we're going to all be back out here again at 8 o'clock breaking down that Fed speech. So if you haven't become a member of the channel yet, be sure and become a member of the channel. It's $1 a month. You have access to all the membership-only videos that we have done. We have broken down tons of Fed speeches. We've, talked about Basel endgames. We have talked about the communication styles. We've talked so much monetary policy. And there's no other way to really understand this information to that level than to break down those speeches. And they're not exactly communicated in a way that is clear. So by reading these speeches and having the discussion about it, you can really break these things down to understand what it is that they are trying to communicate, because this is the communication going to the other central bankers out there. And that's what's important to understand. It's not communication that's meant necessarily for the public. It's meant for the other central bankers to be aware of. And I find that to be quite interesting when I read through these communications going to the other central bankers, that it has a tendency to be different from what the mainstream propagandized information is saying out there. So breaking down these speeches is almost, it's like critical to understanding what is going on within the economy, especially going on within the FOMC and the Federal Reserve. So, and there's no other way to do it other than to literally break it all down. So, you can do that for yourself. Fed speeches are totally available on the internet. Or you can pay $1 a month and you can hear me stumble through the speech. And we can have the incredibly intelligent comment section within the membership-only videos to not only have the discussion to share your ideas and opinions with, but then also get your questions answered and, all the other greatness that comes from that membership only stuff. So thank you very much for becoming a member of the channel. And if you haven't yet, the link is down in the description. And again, it's only $1 a month. It's $1 to you, $12 a year, $120 a decade, but it's everything to me. I put a lot of work and time and effort and energy into it. So. Alrighty, I'm going to read a couple more here and then we're going to call it quits. I'm going to check my smoker too. Wink, wink. Yeah, I hear you, all-nighter. Alright. Oh, not reading that one. Okay. So you agree that stock market is going down and the housing market is going down? No, I wouldn't necessarily agree to that. Purchased a membership. Also, thanks, Simon. Hey, thank you, Jack. You're going to really enjoy that stuff. Not really, mostly live off of what is left, and my wife is a nurse. All right. Link to the essay. So the essay on economic theory, right? That's available down in the description. It's an Amazon affiliate link. Now, if you don't want to buy the Amazon, or if you don't want to follow the Amazon link to buy the essay, I totally understand. It is for free at the Mises Institute. So just type in, I don't know, it's kind of dark in here. You can't really see it. Cantillon essay on economic theory. Just follow the link and look at the essay, and then just go and Google Cantillon essay on economic theory, and it should pop right up from the Mises Institute. All Nighter has a tendency to throw it up there for us every once in a while, so he might do that for you if he's feeling up to it today. But yeah, and I encourage everybody to go and read that essay, especially there's 3 chapters. Chapters 6, 7, and 8. The increase and decrease of money to the state. By far, like, so important to understand how it is that money flows in and how that separates for the rich from the poor. Those 3 chapters are incredibly telling on how that works. In fact, I might go and read those 3 chapters tonight after we end the live stream, just because of how good they are. Simon, I meant I found an audiobook for free on YouTube. Oh, right on. There's the Amazon affiliate link. Thank you so much. They're all-nighter. So the house I'm currently doing will have about 50K into it. Hope to get about 85K out of it. Yeah, and see, that's just the thing. You take saws, you take lumber, you take a project, you make it better, right? You put some forced appreciation into it, make it something that it never was before, and very creative and awesome, and you get to make money off of that, right? It's like being useful, being creative, being inspiring, being that sort of way. It's just like you'll get rewarded for that. And a house is no different. Like building a house is a very useful thing that you are doing. I'm a conventional slumlord. Ugh. It happens. All right. Until next time, right on, Coors Light. I'm hearing you the same way. I am out of here. It's late. We're going to be back out here first thing in the morning breaking down Fed speech. So I will create a membership only videos schedule for one of those so that it'll be all scheduled up there so everybody can be ready to join in when that starts up. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for following the Uneducated Economist. Thank you for clicking on the Amazon affiliate link, because even by clicking on the link and putting things in the cart for the next 24 hours after clicking on the Amazon affiliate link, I will get a commission for anything that you purchase from Amazon by clicking on the link first. So you don't even have to buy the essay. You can just buy whatever you want that you normally would, and you'd still be supporting the Uneducated Economist. So I want to thank everybody who has been doing that, because I just recently got another check from Amazon, and it was, it's not huge or anything, but it's cool to see coming in, and it's a nice little, kind of a nice little bonus to see coming in at the end of the month. So thank you everybody who's helping to contribute in your own way to supporting the Uneducated Economist. Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.